All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Tuesday, October 16th, Netflix Day, or a lot of names that reported earnings. What a monster move here for Netflix. We're up to 390. Keep in mind the implied move was only about 10%. So they went right through that move. I think that would have gotten you to maybe because it rallied into the close. Maybe my math might be a little bit off, but I think around 370 to 380 was the implied move. So and that's the move to Friday. So it is up to 390. So very nice. If you look at the numbers. Really, I think it's all about their subscriber growth, which was an issue last quarter. Their earnings were great. Their revenue actually came in right on the screws, in line with expectations. But all about I think the streaming and the subscriber growth. So very very positive. If you look to where this is on the chart. Right now we're trading at 389, which is not going to update after hours on the Thinkorswim charts, but that'll get you right back to this hump where we stalled out at the last earnings gap. So this should be interesting to see what happens here with Netflix the rest of the week. A couple other names that the other names that reported. Now, mind you, we saw that nice SMH semis order. November and February calls. A couple names in the semi space. Cree had earnings. Now, this is already after the semis were up. And I will go over all of today's market action. Let's see. Up 3.4% was SMH, and then these names, this and then Lam Research also reported, and Lam Research I think just slightly beat their number, which is fine because the expectations are so low for some of these semi names. So should be a nice follow through move, I would think, for the semis tomorrow. But Lam Research, which was up 2% today, up another $5 after hours. So really nice there. A few other names that reported. CSX also. CSX actually came back in a little bit. I'll have to go through the numbers there. IBM, which is always kind of, I did not play this for earnings, but I would have shorted it. I know it's kind of, I hate to say that when I don't have a trade on. Oh, what would you do? I would have shorted it. But we talked a little bit about it in the trading room today. But regardless, I did not trade. The only thing I did for Netflix was. For Netflix, I did a calendar spread, which I don't think that's going to work. But the trade is not over yet. We've got the whole week for that trade. So in any event, very strong. So let me go over the Qs. You can see what they're doing after hours. Very positive. You can see Amazon took off. Really strong day for Amazon. Basically just this was a full participation day. So I'm going to look at the averages and see how they line up. But we could go through a couple of the single stocks, but really everything participated today. So I'll talk a little bit about what sectors were the best performers for the day. So major bounce trade. We talked a little bit about that in last night's video. I mean, I was pretty negative. I did not like how the tape looked yesterday. There was not very much option positioning going on the bullish side. You could hear a pin drop yesterday in terms of the option activity. Also, the groups that outperformed yesterday were all the defensive. So, this was your big bounce day. We got it today. Now, we'll see if we get some follow through. And I think some charts are going to look better than others. So, let's go right to SPY. And I have to. This will be a shorter video than normal because I have to leave the office shortly. But this SPY was up 2.4%, so really nice move back above the 200-day moving average. You could see that you could say the same thing for the Qs, which the Qs were up close to 3% for the day. They were just hanging on to the 200-day moving average by a thread. So really nice to see that up 2.9%. And then small caps, which also did very well today, up about the same thing, still underneath the 200-day moving average, but a hell of a day for them to bounce. So up 2.9% there. And then once you get into sectors, this is really where it was basically the opposite of yesterday. The best thing I see on my watch list in terms of sectors or groups was biotech. Biotech really kind of flew underneath the radar. Everybody was talking about the FANG stocks and how much tech got sold, large cap, small cap tech, but biotech also has been getting smoked the last couple weeks. And there was one, two, and this was after it crossed the 200-day moving average to the downside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 red days, even though this was kind of a doji, and then a smash up. And that's the same thing. What helped the software group was Adobe. So this group was for a while the best performing, and then some of these other groups kind of caught up to it. But the Adobe coming out after the close yesterday really helped this group. This was the watch list that I sent out to members this morning. I think did pretty well in terms of swing trade setups or bounce candidates. This is what I set out this morning. I was looking at ALGN. So I did have my eye on a couple biotechs last night, ILMN, EW, and I think there's still more to go for some of these, but these things set up for really nice bounce candidates. And I think that even though this was up 5.5% today, you might be able to see a second day of a lift here. And then it's going to be tough, and then we're going to be meeting overhead resistance. But this Align, maybe it gets sneaky right into earnings and comes all the way up to 350. That's what I would see there. I still like this Edwards. They also report next week a nice bounce on the 200-day moving average. What else was I looking at today? ILMN. Let's see what this did today. Same thing. Again, it's the moves are so similar. The charts are also very similar. But I thought that some of these names could get going based on either being oversold into support, or just setting up a little bit different, technically. I think I talked to, maybe I didn't talk about Amazon. Oh, I talked about Amazon being up after hours. Amazon could still lift here, before it hits overhead resistance too. Apple, I think a better looking chart. Apple really hasn't had too much, to the downside. This is going to get back above here. So you still have, again, overhead supply to deal with, but, 224, could be an area we're only a couple bucks away from there. But I think this is setting up for a swing here as well. Had a great day today, up 2.2%. Again, basically moved in, when I say great day, basically right in line with the averages, right? That's what the S&P did, up 2.2% today. So performed exactly in line with that. A few other groups, if you follow the IBD, which is really a momentum or high growth ETF, this IBD 50 name, also up 4%. So just across the board, right? We saw the names that have really been getting beaten up come back. So keep in mind, one day is not a trend. But you may see a little bit of follow through tomorrow based on the good earnings, right? If we had earnings that, if Netflix would have come in and had a bad quarter, and if they would have said something to the effect of, something negative in their earnings call. Now they still, I think we'll still have to wait for some of the earnings calls for these names that reported after the close. But I think being that the majority of them did what the previous reports did, I think that we might see a second day of bounce, right? And I think that's what people have been concerned about, is what the earnings reports are going to say. We still have, this is just the beginning of the earnings season. The industrials coming out, maybe they say something about impact. I played UNH for earnings. This was a nice trade that I did yesterday. I also put on, real nice move right back to a 52-week high. So this is how fast these moves can happen. So I had a nice earnings trade on for UNH that I took off for profits today. The other trade that I put on yesterday was FDX, and I think I went over this in yesterday's video. into some support, so nice bounce where I sold put spreads. I took advantage of the heightened volatility, which I'll look at too. Look at the support right into the to the moving average. A couple other charts which I did not go over, I think, in yesterday's because I gave a member-only webinar Sunday. But really, I was complaining yesterday about the international markets, and take a look at what some of these did today. This is on the weekly chart, found support right where it needed to. Again, one day is not a trend, but we'll see if this continues to hold this 63.55. That is international developed. And then, which I also talked about, I'm pretty sure I talked about these in yesterday's video, but also emerging markets on the weekly chart also found support where it needed to, also up 2.5%. So this is as close. So I can go through a whole bunch of other names, but I mean, a lot of names look so. My colleague Pat pointed out Shop today, which had an awesome day, up over 7% today in Shop, and back into that bottom of value as well. Microsoft was another name that I did not mention pre-market, but we mentioned it during the day. Also right back and above the 50-day moving average, so that might be a nice setup, again, going into earnings as well for a possible run into earnings. Notice it took out this VPOC down here and bounced. Okay, guys, so that's it for today. Great day all around. If you had if you had some long positions on, a couple ads that I did on Friday, I actually added XLK on the 200-day moving average back on Friday, and I also added to my long IGV position on Friday. So those working out pretty well. Those are cash positions, not option positions. So that's it for today. Have a great night and see you tomorrow.